This is part 5 of how Ram defeated the demon king Ravan. This part is the final part, it's quite long. The Siege of Lanka. Hanuman landed right in the middle of Lanka. Remember that huge big leap? I am quite wonderful, he said aloud. Not a monkey hair out of place. What a leap! What a leap! The high walls of Lanka city were surrounded by a deep moat that was filled with killer sharks. The brick-lined streets were graced on either side with tall mansions and stately trees. Everywhere there were demons, some green, some pink, some black, and some quite transparent. Some were hideous, and others were as beautiful as anything in heaven. But where was Sita to be found? Hanuman scampered quietly over a high fence and found himself in a large garden. Nearby he could hear some ugly demons talking to each other. We could gobble this Sita up in a minute if it were not for King Ravan's instructions, said one female. You idiot, we're supposed to be guarding her, not eating her. Besides, Ravan wants to marry her, said another. Why does he wait for her consent when he can take her by force, said the first. Don't you know about the curse? If he takes any woman by force, he is cursed to die. That is why he must be patient. It can't be long now. She can't say no forever. Hanuman's hair stood on end. Poor Sita, he thought. He must find her. He followed the two demons to a tall, flowering tree. There, underneath it, sitting in a huddle, was the most beautiful human creature Hanuman had ever seen. He clambered up the tree and sat hidden in its branches until the demons were gone. Then he dropped Ram's ring into Sita's lap. Sita looked up, quite startled. Don't be discouraged, brave Sita, Hanuman whispered. I am Ram's messenger. I will tell him where you are, and he will rescue you. Sita gave Hanuman a pearl she always wore and said, Give this to Ram. Tell him I love him. But demons are very clever. They could smell an intruder in their city. They hunted Hanuman down and bound him up. Then they tied rags to his tail, dipped the rags in oil, and set them on fire. There, monkey, they said, that will teach you to spy on our land. Hanuman flew around Lanka with his tail blazing. He touched one mansion with it and it caught on fire. He touched another and another and another. Half of Lanka was ablaze before Hanuman dipped his tail into the ocean to cool it off. Then he stretched his muscles and snapped off all the ropes that bound him. He took another giant leap over the ocean and was back home. He gave Sita's pearl to Ram and told his story, adding, Let us prepare our armies for war. Sita is waiting for us. Hundreds and thousands of bears and monkeys collected their weapons and began the long march to the ocean. When the waves touched their feet, they stopped. How would an entire army cross the ocean? Just then, the Ocean King rose up from the waters and said, There is amongst you a monkey who spends his idle hours skimming stones across the water. Let him step forward. A small, fat, brown monkey took one step forward. Here, sir, he said. You skim your stones over the water from here to Lanka, and I will make sure that the stones keep floating. This way you will have a bridge, said the Ocean King. The fat, brown monkey began skimming his stones. A bridge began to grow. When the squirrels in the trees saw what was happening, they said, We will help too. We want to help the good Prince Ram. They came out from bushes, out from tree trunks, and out from the branches of shady trees. First they jumped into the water to wet their fur. Then they rolled in the sand, and then they ran up the stone bridge and shook off their sand. They did this again and again until the bridge to Lanka looked like a paved road. King Ravan looked out of the top window in his palace and saw a bridge advancing towards Lanka. Fools, he muttered. We'll kill them all as they land. I'll talk to my brothers. Ravan's first brother said, Ram is a good man. Don't fight him. You cannot possibly win. Return his wife to him. That is all he asks for. Spare our nations unnecessary bloodshed. You cowardly fool, said Ravan. I'll keep Sita and defeat her puny husband. I don't need your help. Get out. So Ravan's first brother left Lanka and joined Ram's forces. Ravan's second brother was a giant who slept for 6 months and then woke up for just a day. It was his day to rise and shine. Go light a fire under my second brother to hasten his waking up, Ravan said, and have a meal ready, 100 crisply roasted buffaloes, 200 cartfuls of rice, and 500 vats of the best wine. Hurry. Meanwhile, ask my generals to begin the attack. When Ravan reached his second brother, he found him barely up. I want you to prepare for war, said Ravan. Whatever for? The second brother yawned so hard that he sucked in all the birds that were flying around his palace. Oh, I've just woken up. I hate all these earthly problems. That's why I prefer to sleep. Ram is here to get his wife back. You may have to fight him, Ravan said. Wouldn't it be simpler if you just returned his wife? Asked his giant brother. I would rather die first, said Ravan. Just then Ravan's servants came to him to announce that his generals were dead, slain by Ram's army. Oh, well, said Ravan's second brother, I suppose I'll have to fight now. I will willingly kill them and drink their blood. I must say, though, that stealing another man's wife is absolutely wrong. So the giant brother went out to fight. War drums and trumpets pierced the air as he moved on Ram's army of animals like a towering war machine, spitting arrows in all directions. The little monkeys and the little bears were terrified and fled in all directions. The brave Hanuman leapt up and took a bite out of the giant brother's ear. It did not do much good. Finally, Ram aimed a careful arrow and shot off the giant's head. The arrow was so fierce that it carried the second brother's head over the city of Lanka, drenching it with blood. Next, Ravan sent his son, Indrajit, to fight. Drums and trumpets sounded again. The son, using his father's chariot of the skies, circled Ram's army and let loose a storm of thunderbolts, spears and serpent darts. By nightfall, every member of Ram's army lay wounded. Indrajit reported to his father, They're all finished. My dearest father, from now on you will have no more worries. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, the bear general was crying, Medicine, medicine, we need medicine. We must have medicine tonight. The bear general saw Hanuman had some strength left. Go, he ordered. Go to the Himalaya mountains tonight. Bring back healing herbs from the magic mountain. It's interesting, whilst I'm reading this story, it's making me think of things that this story connects to. Have a think whilst you're listening about any connections that you are thinking about. But it was pitch dark and he could not tell one herb from another. Bother, he said, I'll just take the whole mountain. Holding the mountain aloft in his hands, he leapt back to Lanka. As he hovered over the army, he shouted, Where shall I put it down? Hurry, hurry, make some space. This thing is heavy. Make room. There is no room here for such a huge mountain, said the bear general. The aromas from the herbs have revived our army, so you can take the mountain back. Next day, Ravan heard sounds of rejoicing coming from the animal army. What on earth is going on? He asked. His spies climbed up on the walls of the city and did not like what they saw. The animal army had recovered. And it's besieging the city, they reported to Ravan. How can that be? Said a bewildered Ravan, shaking all his 10 heads. This is not possible. I thought they were dead. Then Ravan's son Indrajit spoke up. Do not worry, father. I am still here. I will take care of this. Indrajit tightened his belt and put on his gleaming silver armour. As he stepped outside the walls of his city, he called, Lashman, you may have survived my last attack, but this time I will finish you. I challenge you to a duel. I accept that challenge, Lashman yelled back. The two went at each other with every weapon they had. Indrajit threw a poisoned javelin at Lashman, who cut it into small pieces with his arrow. Indrajit lifted his bow and shot off 1,000 arrows. Lashman stopped each arrow with one of his own. Indrajit lifted up his sword and came at Lashman. There's a picture there. He took slow, careful... Enough is enough, said Lashman. He took slow, careful aim with his bow, and using a single arrow, that's the picture there, shot off Indrajit's head. When Ravan heard of this, he let out a yell of pain. My son, my dear son, dead. It is unbearable. I am the most unfortunate man alive. My generals are dead, my dear second brother is gone, and now my son, my dear, dear son. That night it was very quiet. The stars shone clearly and brightly in the sky. All the next day Ravan and his demons prepared again for war, a war to the death. Ravan put on his gold armour and all his 10 gold helmets. In the dark of the night, Ravan and his demons thundered across Lanka's drawbridge and advanced towards the army waiting below. Ram said to his army of animals, "All my friendly monkeys and bears, take cover and hide. This is my battle." He turned to his brother Lashman and said, "You go with them. This is a fight I must fight alone." His army fell back. There was a glow in the sky. Ravan was approaching in his chariot. Ram climbed into a chariot of his own and rushed towards the oncoming enemy. They fought with golden arrows and silver spears. If Ravan shot 1,000,000 arrows at him, Ram countered with 1,000,000 of his own. If Ravan's 20 arms aimed 20 spears at Ram, Ram sloughed them all off with his shield. Each man stood tall in his chariot. The clash of weapons resounded through earth and heaven. Ravan swung a mace round and round, letting it gather power and speed, and then he hurled it at Ram. Ram ducked to one side and let it fly past him. Then Ram aimed a single arrow at Ravan. It broke Ravan's shield and struck Ravan in the centre of his heart. Ravan was dead. All the demons fled in fear. The animals jumped up and down, shouting, "Glory be to Ram! Glory be to Ram!" It was daybreak. Hanuman went scampering off to Sita to give her the good news. "I still have the jewels you threw down to earth when Ravan was carrying you away," he said. Sita put the jewels on and combed her hair. "How is my husband?" she asked. "Come with me and you will find out," Hanuman said. "Lashman has built a small hut of leaves for you so you may rest." Hanuman led Sita to her waiting husband. "Oh, my Sita, what you must have suffered," said Ram, embracing her. He put his arm around her shoulders and led her to the hut. Meanwhile, the animal army began preparations to return home, and Lashman prepared to return to Adodhya, where his brother would be crowned king. The 14 years of exile were over. Sometimes, boys and girls, when we read stories or when we listen to stories, we think about our Bloom's different higher order thinking skills. Remember? Remembering are the most sort of straightforward ways of questioning ourselves, understanding. It moves up to being able to apply what we've read or listened to. Then analysing, being able to analyse what we've read or listened to. Then the next level up is being able to evaluate it and share your thoughts and opinions. And finally, creating, so using what we've read or listened to create and develop something new, maybe just a new idea. So, based on this, what have you remembered from the stories that you've listened to? You might like to tell somebody at home, retell the story, retell some of what you've remembered. Or maybe you'd like to explain a part of it. So if you start to retell the story, ask somebody at home if they can ask you questions and that you can answer and explain a little bit more. You might like to listen to the videos again. You might just choose one of the videos, one of the sections, but have a go at some remembering or some understanding opportunities to develop your own learning. Okay. And also remember, from what I said in the middle of this video, remember to think about what connections, what you've liked about the stories, what you've not liked about the stories, any connections you've made, and anything that you're not sure about, anything that puzzles you. Okay. Goodbye.